So I love pretty much every single answer you're giving, and it's so interesting to hear your perspective about everything. But now you seem like a super nice guy, and Alex and I have a segment called Balls and Strikes where we start to wrap up the show.
Okay.
We're each going to ask you questions. Alex will go first because I have not won yet. We don't know when this episode is going to air, but up to this date, he has won every single time. The point of the segment is we're going to ask you sort of rapid fire, quick questions. They don't need to be, but if it's a bad question, you call it a ball. You either answer it or you don't. Make the person feel super bad about the terrible question they asked. And then it's a 1-0 count. Then the next person asks. And if you get a strike, you keep going. It's like make it take it in basketball, essentially. Up until we get a strikeout, then the winner will be declared. So, Alex, you get to go first. Ask your first question. Get this over with. Let's go.
All right. So I see you're using a paper cup. So would you rather drink out of a plastic cup or a glass cup?
Are you kidding me, Alex? That is my question. That is unbelievable. Call it a ball. Come on, get that over with. Oh.
Glass mug all day, just because the paper cup is not it's not usually me. I'm usually even on the ride in to the field each morning. I'm usually in a glass mug. I just happened to grab breakfast with some friends this morning, so that's what I got. I love the strategy, stealing a question right out of the gate. I'm a fan of it.
No, so Brooks, so Vinnie has asked that question to every single guest. But he gives me the first one every single time now because he just can't win. He can't win at this game. So I said, you know what? I know he only has, 2 questions probably prepared. So now I had to take that. But so is that a strike?
Vinny, that was a strike. And Vinny, if the leadoff hitter likes to bunt and you're playing third base and you're playing behind the bag, that's on you.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. I can't argue that.
I just, I beat the shift. That's basically what I did. I knew what he was going to ask. So,
Alex, let me tell you, you're not a pull hitter. I'll tell you that right now. You're not a power pull left-handed hitter. I can just tell you that at this moment that you are not that.
And I know you aren't either.
Hey, guy hit 19 home runs as a junior, I think. So,
all right,
Alex, come up.
I'm ahead 0-1. Do I go for just an easy strike or do I kind of change it up?
Just do it.
I think I might go for a 3-pitch strikeout here, Vinny. When was the last time you surprised yourself?
Ball.
Love it. So
I'm a tough at bat, Alex. Come on.
Are you going to answer the question or are you going to choose to not?
I'm going to not answer the question.
I love it.
I don't even know if I could surprise myself. Maybe drinking out of this paper cup, but it's a ball.
So when you played, were you a pitcher or a hitter most dominantly?
In college, I was a pitcher, but I was a two-way player, just like most of us.
Okay. All right, I'll ask you from the pitching side. If you were able to throw a bullpen with one major league pitcher or really any pitcher that is, dead or alive, you could just soak in all their knowledge, who would it be from?
Probably Greg Maddux, I would say, just because I was a huge Braves fan growing up. He was somebody that, I don't necessarily think I tried to emulate, but because I wasn't somebody who's going to light the radar gun up, I really appreciated his ability to kind of command the strike zone, to do it with a lot of different pitches, to be able to decelerate the baseball. I love that. I always try to pitch off my changeup, and I think he was somebody that if I could soak in that knowledge and figure out how he was able to get the umpire to call a strike 9 inches off the plate, I would love to know. I'd love to know how he got that done.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna take that as a strike. So 0-1 for me. You're the GM / owner of a team, right? It's your team, whatever. Salary cap's off. What is going to be the identity of that team? It's a baseball team, right? Obviously. What is going to be your team's identity and what people will talk about your team as?
I'd say that's a good question, so I'm going to give it a strike.
Thank you.
Sorry, Alex. I would say that I want to surround myself with people that are a lot smarter than me, that are very talented in whatever area that they're in. I think there's so many different departments that touch a professional organization on and off the field. So just trying to accumulate a bunch of people that are passionate and really good at what they do.
Mhm.
But I would also really, when it comes to acquiring players and kind of rewiring what an organization could look like, is just find a bunch of guys who really just like to compete. I think that's the one thing in this game that when we look at top to bottom is that competition is lost. So I think how we would apply competition from, the very highest level down to the newest prospects that get drafted or signed is just learning that there's a consequence to everything we do. There's a win and loss to everything we do, to every rep, to every at bat, to every pitch, which translates into every game. And I think if you can get the players to have that mindset, and then the staff, the coaches, the front office can model those same behaviors where we're all competing every day at whatever our role might be, and we're a piece to a puzzle. As we put that together as a team, I think you're going to have success at some point. It may not happen right away, but I do think you're going to have success over time.
Mm-hmm.
See, now
is that he step off? Is that a step off the mound?
At the ball.
Yeah, sorry, I called time there real quick. Sorry about that. Wow, that really just threw me off. Okay. I had a nail biter of a question, and that little distraction just totally messed me up. So I'm going to go back to what I was going to ask. The answer cannot be Tim Corbin, because I know that's what you're going to say. But in your experience, who is the greatest leader you've ever either worked with or seen that was just able to get people to really follow the message that they were creating?
Now, Brooks, before you call this a ball or a strike, it was an awful, absolutely awful, like just few seconds before the delivery. Like he's like slipping on the mound. He's able to, get his composure and throw it a good pitch. But remember, it's all about the lead up.
Hey, things happen on Zoom calls, so I'm just not going to hide from it. That's right. There was a little bit of distraction in the house.
You can tell there's some broadcaster media personality in Alex. He's trying to dive deep and get his angle, which I appreciate. And because there's too many people that I could probably reference that, don't want to hurt any feelings. Been around a lot of people that have been great leaders. I'm going to go with ball.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the ball.
All right. So I think I'm ahead 1 and 2 here, right? It's a 1-2 count for me too now.
No, you're a 1-1 count.
I'm a 1.
You're a 1. Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned just previously in the interview just about the importance and greatness that college baseball is and Vanderbilt is and just in general baseball is. Why should I watch college baseball over another baseball outlet?
I just think there's a purity. I'll go with strike there. I'll go with a strike. It's a good question. I just think there's a purity to the college game. I think there's so many, players that know they're not going to move on to the next level. So they're playing the game for a very different reason than maybe somebody that's playing, single A or double A baseball and knowing that, they're just trying to get to the big leagues and make it a career. I love the emotion and the fan bases of college baseball. I just think it's really special. And I think you're able to really see, guys' personalities, especially in the SEC. Like I think about, this is before my time, but I think about a year in SEC baseball where you had Alex Bregman, Alex Benintendi, and Dansby Swanson. They're all playing across the SEC and really defining their personalities to the public, both their fan bases, but also on TV, that you've been able to see translate as they've gotten to Major League Baseball. So I just think to be able to see those kind of stories in their book be written, and that the college is, a significant chunk of chapters in their book, I think makes it really unique to follow college teams.
All right. So now I'm ahead 1 and 2. How important is social media to building the player's personality at the college level versus any other level?
Oh, you can't answer that legally. I don't think players can't really market themselves on social media in the NCAA. I don't think, though.
Like their brand
as
a personality.
I hear where you're coming from, Vinnie.
That's no.
But
context.
I'm going to give it a strike because it's a good question. I think it's important. It's important. Don't hate me, Vinny. I'm sorry.
Hey, no, I'm not hating the player. I just,
It's
hey, I like the question too.
well, I just think that I think growing the individual following of a player is important. And I do think, I probably have two sets of glasses on this one because my lens on the college side, I think, would look differently than the pro side. But social media is the best way you can connect with that next generation of players, either you're recruiting, fans of your team, or even donors maybe who, have a philanthropic mind and they might want to give back to your program one day based on what they saw. So I mentioned it earlier, but how you craft that message from your team accounts is arguably as important as anything you do in your program. You're going to plan out your practice and training sessions really methodically, just like you're going to lay out your recruiting calendar, your game calendar. So we're very intentional about how we do that with our social media on our team accounts. But part of that strategy includes how you grow the players' individual accounts as well. And the name and image likeness stuff that you mentioned, Vinny, that's coming down the pipeline here next year will really change the game as far as these guys being able to generate revenue, not just baseball, but all sports generate revenue off of, who they are and their following on social media, which there's a lot of mixed feelings on that. And I think a lot of things still to come as far as how we all apply that across the board. But there's definitely intention for us as far as if a guy comes in and he's got a great story to tell and he's a personality that we want to do it for all of our players. And, certainly, there's guys that play at a high level that are very involved in social media that makes it easier to build their profile. And there's some that are good players that don't really like social media that make it harder to build. And you may have players that maybe aren't as talented or people don't know because they don't play as much that have a large following. So you've got all these different levels of players that, hey, they're all Vanderbilt baseball, student athletes, and you want to be able to invest in them equally. That's not always possible, but I do think like when the goal of any young player on social media is just to stay true to themselves. Don't try to be something that you're not. Don't posture on social media. Authenticity will always sell. I think that's what we focus on with our team accounts. And when we do promote the players, selling who they are with their personality and with their skill set. But I do also believe when future teams evaluate you as a person or a player, or maybe a sponsor evaluates you for a future contract, they're going to be looking for somebody that can organically represent them in the right ways without a lot of fluff that people will see right through or maybe not engage with. And then I'd say on the flip side too, like, putting my pro glasses on from the standpoint, like the game is changing. Like we talked about it with technology, the game is changing so much in regards to how companies spend their marketing dollars. And if you have high level professional athletes that have yet to take advantage of building a social media following, in my mind, they're losing money. And I don't think that's rocket science, but I think they're going to get left behind in some areas where maybe a player who's on a scale, I'd say with like a little bit less on-field talent, but has a great social media following. You can point to some cases today without question, but as this evolves, as we go forward, you're going to be able to see more of that in the future, one way or another, as that player with a little bit less talent on the field, but a big social media following can make just as much, if not more money than the guy who is more talented, but maybe hasn't really invested in trying to build his personal brand and his social media off the field.
Mm-hmm. So Alex, you win. Congratulations to you. But I do have one side note question since you talked about just some changes in the NCAA. Do you think NCAA football will ever make a comeback, the video game?
Whew. Man, I hope so, because I spent a lot of late nights as a younger guy playing that game, and I wouldn't mind seeing it come back. And I think there's definitely a path for it to be there, especially with the name and image likeness coming the pipe. I don't have any inside knowledge or anything like that, but that was one of my favorites. So that'd be awesome. And even there were 2 years where they had an NCAA baseball game too. I mean, you talk about just again
legendary baseball games.
What's that?
Legendary games.
Oh, they were awesome. I think it was 06 and 07, and those were a lot of fun. And you hate to see that kind of stuff taken away. There's a lot of people a lot smarter than me that are having to make those decisions, but I think that would be good, and I think it's fun. And you mentioned growing the game. Like video games are a part of that way to get kids involved with understanding teams and names and conferences and players. And I think it makes a huge difference from a pro standpoint. You see like how games like MLB The Show have evolved with putting prospects in games, and it only helps grow your game when people can identify with a team and organization and players. And I think if college, if there's a path in the NCAA to do that, it's only going to help grow. It's only going to help grow college athletics in general.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you say that because I'm thinking about it now. I wasn't a college baseball guy growing up. It was never something that I was into. But then when the video game hit, it was like, wow, this is a whole new metal bats and video games, like all this stuff. And then as my recruiting process began in the football game, Old Dominion got put in the latest NCAA football game. And I remember thinking it was so cool that like a smaller school was able to, just be in something like that. And I'd play with them all the time, create my dynasty. But it's just funny how it really does drive interest, especially with youths, because that is what they do. It's what I do right now. I play a lot of video games. It's what everybody's doing, especially nowadays. Like, it's such a great marketing piece that they could just have if they're able to figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the smaller schools, like you think about the bigger schools, but you have smaller schools that are in a video game that somebody just buys it because they want to play with their school in the video game. I think that's why a lot of people buy the game, whether you're a fan of, Alabama or Ohio State, or whether you're a fan of Vanderbilt, or whether you're a fan of, Old Dominion or Coastal Carolina. People are going to want to, if there's a game right now with the season Coastal Carolina is having, you're going to have people like, man, I want to go buy the game because I want to play with this team. That's good it's good. It's a different type of marketing, but it's still marketing and growth of a school and a team and an athletic department. And I think that could go for baseball, basketball, and football.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, 30-second elevator pitch. Tell everybody where they can. Sorry, Alex has another question.
Brooks, before we go, what is the best position in baseball?
The best position in baseball? I'd have to say the pitcher, because the game goes as you go. So you can control the tempo, control the pace, and ultimately, I think your mindset and attitude kind of dictates how the game goes in most cases. I think you can make an argument for a lot of positions, but for me, it's pitcher.
Wrong answer. The answer is first base, and we're just not going to get into it right now. But so you're officially off the list of nominees for Guest of the Year. So
wow, just like that.
Just like that. That's a tough call for you.